Welcome back to some more Saya no Uda. So the last time where I left off, it seems like when I was looking back on the last video, I think there was some poor choice of wording per se. I feel like the main character is slowly, acknowledging his own mental condition in a way. I mean, this is the first time I've seen, Saya's, appearance within the visual novel per se. So because of that, I feel like he cares more about himself and Saya at the same time. And, everything else around him is, more of a nuisance, if anything. So, I mean, especially with the especially with the conflict that started between Fuminori and Yo. So if you scroll up per se, yeah. Did I say Fuminori? I meant Fuminori. Oh well. But yeah, we're back to where I left off. It's funny because if you go up here, if you click on the save menu, you can lock the saves, make it so making sure you don't delete them. So it's interesting. So anyway, when I regained consciousness in the T University Hospital ward, the world was as dark as it is now. I had not yet recovered my sight, even though my eyes and optical nerves were undamaged. It must have been an after effect of the accident. Blindness was a shock, but now I know that my suffering then was nothing. After all, my senses of hearing, touch, taste, and smell were all fine at the time. The real horror began when my sight returned. Oh, we're back here. As if it gets any more worse. The one small mercy was that I was able to come to terms with the accident and my neurosurgery while still blind. I panicked when I first saw the nightmarish hospital and the blood-curdling shapes of the doctors and nurses, but I soon guessed the cause. It chills me to think of what might have happened if I had recovered my sight along with my consciousness. Suddenly awakening in what can only be described as hell, I would no doubt have lost my mind instantly. Soon my disorder spread to the senses of touch, taste, and smell. As it turns out, sight exerts tremendous influence over the other four. The taste of my food, the feel of my bed sheets, the fragrance of my get-well flowers, all became as unbearably foul as my eyes said they should be. Eventually, even when the doctors' voices became unrecognizable as human, I decided to kill myself. I didn't believe for a second that I could live in this new world. At least, not until I met Saya. One night, while thinking of a painless way to die, I found myself succumbing to sleep. Drifting between the nightmares in my dreams and the nightmare of reality, I didn't notice her enter my room. The next thing I knew, there was a face staring down at me from next to my bed. The face was not covered in pus or slime or earthworm-like feelers. It had smooth white cheeks, round eyes, a lovely little nose, all things I had never expected to see again. The face was that of a girl, undeniably human and positively glowing with beauty. I sighed in admiration, savoring the first peace and joy since regaining my sight. She had not expected such a reaction, apparently. She asked, looking at the clock. I saw that it was exactly 3 in the morning, no time for a young girl to be alone in a hospital. Perhaps she expected me to mistake her for a ghost. But I would not have cared if she had been a ghost. Either way, she was a godsend.
君は誰だい? なぜここに?
私はさや。パパのこと探しに来たの。
Saya's looking for her dad. I assumed that she was the daughter of a late-shift doctor or another patient. It was unusual, but not unthinkable for such a girl to be wandering around the hospital.
あなた、怖がらないんじゃつまらない。
あ、ちょっと。
I cried, desperate to keep her from leaving. It was only after she turned around that I realized I hadn't thought of what to say next.
何？
Her beautiful eyes drew me in, healing my soul to its core. Through the white haze clouding my mind, I struggled to form a coherent sentence.
女の子にお願いしていいことじゃないんだが、今は君にしか頼めない。
Well, considering that she looks human within his perspective, it's not, surprising in a way. Because I feel like Saya is just there to, cope with his, current condition. No longer concerned with propriety, I let the words come as they willed.
手を握らせてもらえないだろうか。
Saya looked confused at first, but then she smiled like she just found a new toy. Her smile was brighter than my memories of the sun.
変な人。そんなこと言い出したの、あなたが初めて。
You're strange, she said, holding out her slender white hand. No one's asked me anything like that before. Ever so carefully, as though catching snowflakes, I placed my palm against hers. I could feel her human warmth and the softness of her delicate fingers. She was there, just beyond the palm of my hand. Thinking back on the joyful tears I shed then, I know that this is the moment I was saved from my fate.
この半月の間に初めて人に触れた。人だと感じられる体に。
は？
Even she was like, what the hell are you talking about?
他の人じゃダメなんだ。僕事故に遭ってその後遺症らしいんだけど、人が人の姿に見えないんだよ。
Really? Oh, but the side effect of the surgery? Well, that's pretty tragic.
本当に不思議な人。
That's very strange indeed.
あなたって面白い。明日の夜もまた来ていい？
あ、そりゃもういいのかい？君はそんなことをして。
大丈夫よ。夜は私のものだから。
Her night belongs to him. And so our rendezvous began. Saya came to my room every night at 3 a.m., skillfully taking advantage of the duty nurse's shift change. I was astonished to learn that she was living inside the hospital.
これだけ広いと隠れる場所には事欠かないから。
She said, answering my surprise with a nonchalant smile. She had been living in the suburbs with her father, she told me, until one day she'd suddenly stopped coming home. After she had tired of waiting, Saya had decided one night to sneak into the hospital where he'd work. And there she'd lived for over 2 months, searching for his whereabouts all the while.
学校には行かなくていいのかい？
いいの。勉強は全部パパに教えてもらったから。さやはとっても頭がいいんだよ。
She was a strange girl. On the one hand, she looked and acted like a child. On the other, she was remarkably self-reliant and at times exhibited a sharp intelligence and deep knowledge that many may have found unsettling. I didn't care. Saya was the only other human in the world gone mad. Her existence meant far more to me than the standards of society.
危なくないのか？見つかりそうになったことは。
全然平気。ここにいれば食べるものにも不自由しないし、パパのうちに一人ぼっちでいるよりもずっと楽しいよ。入院してる患者さんたちのうち、ちょっと精神的に参ってそうな人を事前にチェックしといてね。
Saya continued, grinning mischievously.
時々部屋に真夜中に忍び込んで脅かしたりするの。その人が大騒ぎしても、そういう患者さんの言うことはみんな真に受けたりしないから。
And scared him. It's a bit odd.
結局は悪い夢ってことで片付けられちゃうし。
Her confession reminded me that the hospital was famous for its ghost stories. Who could have imagined that there was actually a real girl impishly roaming these hallways?
じゃあ僕も最初はそのつもりで。
うん。ごめんね。怒った。
While her pranks were hardly praiseworthy, I couldn't bring myself to scold her for the very thing that had brought us together.
もうやらない方がいい。その代わり夜は僕の話し相手になってくれないか？
さやもその方が楽しい。
Whoa! Oh my god. So this was so it looks like he was lying on a hospital bed and the blanket is nothing but disgusting stuff on this one, huh? That's a little bit mental if you ask me, isn't it? Ugh. Jesus. With extreme care, I was able to conceal my sensory disorder. It was glaringly obvious that the doctors had no way to cure me, and the fact that I had undergone a still experimental procedure made me even more cautious. As a medical student, it was easy for me to imagine how the doctors would react if they discovered that I was exhibiting such unusual side effects. I was not about to become a guinea pig, a mere specimen to be examined with clinical detachment. And so I hid my discomfort and loathing behind a mask of normalcy. Hopefully that's the right way to pronounce it, convincing the doctors that any signs of stress were merely a result of hospitalization. Saya was my support. Looking forward to her nightly visits gave me the strength to endure my daily torture. Hope can make an enormous difference in a patient's progress. With the aid of my secret nurse, I recovered at a pace that left the doctors stunned. So it's not the hospitalization that made him slowly recover. It's just, you know, he saw Saya within his dreams, quote unquote, condition. It's not really a nightmare. It's just a condition that is like a permanent side effect is. On the last night before my release, I summoned my courage and asked her,
君はこれからもずっとこの病院に居続けるのかい？
うん。結局パパの手がかりはなかったけど、もう他にいるところもないし、バレそうになるまではいいかなって。
In other words, there was nothing keeping her there.
よかったら僕の家に来ないか？
I asked timidly. The question took all the courage I had.
え？
家族はもういないから部屋はいくらでも余ってる。人目を忍ぶような必要もないし、住み心地もそんなに悪くないんじゃないかと。
ずっとふみのりと一緒に暮らすの？
I was too afraid to ask her what she thought of that, so I hastily offered a deal.
君の父さんのことは代わりに僕が探してあげる。約束するよ。必ず居場所を見つけてみせる。
難しいと思うよ、それ。
Saya said, looking a little embarrassed.
多分パパ、何か悪いことをしてこの病院を辞めたんだと思う。だから警察とかは困るの。なるべくこっそりと探さなきゃいけないし。
Oh, so that's why, you know, the main character wanted to find out about the missing doctor. So the missing doctor was supposed to be Saya's father.
頑張るよ。どんなことだってやる。僕は。
Unable to control myself, I finally spoke the truth.
さやと離れたくないんだ。
At first, she looked bewildered, but after a few moments of silence, she said,
少しだけ考えさせて。
That night, she left my room earlier than usual. On the day of my release, I managed to smile as I accepted the hideous, foul-smelling celebratory bouquet. The flesh beasts, calling themselves Koji, Omi, and Yo, came to pick me up, though they had come to see me many times during my stay. It never got easier to see my friends changed so horribly. My sudden tears of despair drew suspicion, but I managed to explain them away as tears of joy. While we walked to Koji's car, I looked desperately for Saya amid the grotesque scenery. Even as we drove away, I kept watching the hospital fade into the distance, praying for our last glimmer of hope. What happens if I change the blur? Does it blur out the disturbing stuff if I turn down the gore? Oh. Okay, so it blurs out stuff, you know, the grotesque stuff, but if I, you know, fully do something like that, now it's like, yeah, that's a bit disturbing right there if you ask me. I mean, yeah, I've seen worse, so. Last glimmer of hope. But Saya never appeared. I mean, again, like, I have not seen, like, enough read-throughs of, like, Saya no Uda on YouTube to know, like, what they did with the settings. But I'm pretty sure they have it, like, the most disturbing CG possible. After Koji and the others dropped me off, I paused a while to regard my surroundings. I had lived my entire life on this block, in this house. There was no other place that I could call home. But nothing was as I remembered. As I walked up the path to the front door and took in the yard where I had spent my childhood, I could feel those memories being defiled by the twisted, festering shapes around me. Right, so right here, I'm assuming this is supposed to be like the backstory before, you know, everything went down. Inside the house, I found nothing familiar, nothing to offer me comfort and warmth. What I had once called home was now a whole other world.
僕にはもう帰る場所なんてない。
I have no home, I whispered with a smile of self-pity. There was one last stop to make, one last nail to hammer into my coffin. I stepped into the room that had cradled me from childhood. The walls were papered with human entrails, the bed a tangled mass of worm flesh, but none of that mattered. There, curled up on the bed like an abandoned cat, was Saya. As I stood there in shock, she looked up at me and in a tiny, weak voice said,
本当に こにいてもいい？
I responded by sweeping her into my arms, embracing her tightly so that she would not escape. Saya did not resist. Oh, now we're at a normal apartment on this one. When she arrives at the Sakisaka house, Omi first takes a deep breath to calm herself. Her anger does not vanish entirely, of course, but at least now she can hear herself think. While waiting for a response from the intercom, she looks over the patch of yard that she can see from outside the gate. Even Omi isn't normally one to complain about other people's housekeeping, but this is going too far. The grass is growing wild, and there are piles of dead leaves scattered everywhere. It doesn't just look untended, it looks like an uninhabited ruin. It's still light out, but every window has its storm shutters tightly sealed. Omi guesses that they've been closed since morning. What kind of life is Fuminori leading? Even if he's living alone, he can't neglect his housework forever. And is it just her imagination, or does something stink like rotten meat? It couldn't be coming from the yard, could it? There's still no response. So she presses the buzzer a second time, and a third, and a fourth. Finally, after this has gone on for over 10 minutes, Omi loses her patience and opens the cover of the intercom. As she expected, the power has been disconnected. Perhaps Fuminori has a good reason for shutting out the world, but Omi can only see it as a lack of respect for others. Her anger rekindled. She pushes the gate open and stomps through the yard to the front door. Given the state of his intercom, she doubts that Fuminori will respond to a knock, so Omi decides to just open the door and go in shouting. And if the door is locked, she'll just have to... Surprisingly, the doorknob turns easily in her hand, and the enraged Omi finds herself throwing the door open wider than she intended. Her nostrils are instantly assaulted by a choking stench.
何?
As Omi stands petrified on the threshold, the cowbell hanging on the inside of the door chimes loudly. A moment later, Omi can't believe her ears. The voice she just heard could not have been human, yet its intonations were too complex for any animal she can imagine.
誰かいるの?
She calls out to the end of the hallway from which the voice came. There is no response. Instead, she hears the sound of something soft and wet flopping its way deeper into the house. Oh boy. I guess, considering the human, entered, his house, she's gonna, experience something very disturbing. Finding it difficult to place a meaningful image to the sound she just heard, Omi stares blankly at the empty vestibule. There's nothing there, not even Fuminori's shoes, which can only mean that he's still outside somewhere, wearing them. The house should be empty, but then what was that voice just now? Her anger has vanished as if it were never there. Nevertheless, Omi sets foot into the hallway, leaving the door open so that the cowbell won't ring. I mean, this is a pretty unsettling thumbnail to use right there. The floor creaks, setting her nerves on edge. Omi isn't sure why she's acting like a burglar, but something tells her to make as little noise as possible. The potency of the stink inside the house makes the whiff she caught outside pale in comparison. It's sickening, like rotten fish guts. Has food been left to spoil in the kitchen? She hears a bubbling sound up ahead. Stepping gingerly on the creaking floorboards, Omi makes her way to the end of the hallway. She finds rooms to both sides of her, one lit, the other dark, and chooses to look into the lit room. It's the kitchen, lit by what must be the only window in the house not covered by a storm shutter. The sound she heard was the pot boiling on the stove, and on the chopping board next to it lie a butcher's knife and some half-diced carrots. A perfectly normal household scene, with the light of the setting sun making everything the color of decomposing fruit. Something is wrong. Who was cooking here, and where did they go?
誰かいないんですか?
Omi calls, regretting it immediately as she realizes that her voice is shaking. As her words echo vainly through the silent house, she begins to feel foolish and defenseless. I mean, she's hearing like something, but it's like, what? Is it like a ghost in the house? And it could be like a slimy ghost, if anything. Suddenly, she feels something cold seeping through her pantyhose. She timidly reaches down to touch her feet. Her fingertips come away covered with a viscous olive green slime, like the filthy water from a tank long clogged with algae and dead fish. The whole floor is covered with it. It must be the source of the stench. Omi now wishes that she had worn her shoes inside. Manners be damned. Oh, there's another one. Wow. When she looks back ruefully the way she came, she realizes that her current position is not visible from the entrance. This kitchen must be where that strange voice came from. The next room is probably the den. As she expected from the closed room shutters, it's pitch black inside. Omi wants nothing more than to flee this house. But that would mean turning her back to the darkness, and that she simply cannot bring herself to do. Oh boy. Wait till she turns on the lights. Moved by some irrational compulsion, Omi sets foot into the den. It is too dark to see anything, and the stink is far worse than before. She slides her hand along the wall, feeling for the light switch. Finding it much sooner than she expected, she flips it on like it's her last hope. Oh, wow. So this is what it's like for within a normal household, huh? The colors. The colors. So many colors. The purple of entrails, the brown of rotten meat, the crimson of fresh blood, the yellow of fat. These colors, and more that cannot be described, cover every inch of the room in maddening array. The colors say all that needs to be said about the painter's hatred, malice, and insanity. Omi's legs give out from the shock, sending her to the floor. Slime immediately soaks through her jeans, its cold tendrils creeping up her legs, crotch, and her neck. Her hand flies to her neck, where it is greeted by another drop of chilly slime. Above her, something is dripping down on her head. Oh. Making perhaps the worst decision of her life, Omi looks up. The predator clinging to the ceiling, poised to leap upon its prey. She sees it in every detail. Her mouth and nose are sealed before she can scream, and her belly is torn open as something enters to feast on her innards. But by the time she feels any of this, Omi has already gone mad. Did she just got murdered? What the fuck happened? Wow. Holy moly. Man, 30 minutes in and it was like, God. I would assume Saya was in the house just waiting for Fuminori or to, I hope I got that right, to come home. But considering that I guess this is part of self-defense. Huh. Oh boy. Anyway. Oh, what is going on? I bit the bullet and tried to take the train, but the rush hour crowds were so bad that I had to get off halfway and walk. I'm running pretty late. Is Saya worried? I hope she's not mad. When I entered the yard, I realized that the front door has been left wide open. Light from the living room is seeping out into the hallway, and I hear what sounds like someone smacking their lips. There's also a tantalizing fragrance in the air. Is it Saya? I consider calling out to her, but decide to enter in silence instead. Something smells strange, though not unpleasant. The aroma is quite soothing. In fact, it reminds me of Saya's hair. At first, I am surprised by what I see in the living room. The floor is covered with what looks to be some kind of grass, probably the source of the herb-like smell, and there are fruits or vegetable-like balls of varying size scattered everywhere.
Saya.
Saya turns around, her eyes wide with surprise. She then looks away sheepishly, like a child caught at some prank.
何を食べてるんだい？
これはその
She stammers, so flustered that I suddenly feel bad for sneaking up on her. Remembering that she has never eaten in front of me before, I realize that she must be quite embarrassed.
一ついいかな？
I scoop up the closest fruit thing and pop it into my mouth, ignoring Saya's attempt to wave me off. It has a strange texture, soft and pliable, like a peach or a pear. When I bite into it with my back teeth, a succulent juice fills my mouth, combined with a sharp, strong fragrance. It's unlike anything I've ever tasted.
何か味付けとか調理してあるのかこれ？
調理ってほどのことは、さばいてからちょっと溶かして食べやすくしただけで、ほとんど生なんだけど。
Oh no. Oh, Omi, I think Omi got fucking murdered, and now there is some cannibalism involved. Holy fuck. I mean, is Saya not gonna, I guess Saya's not gonna explain to him what happened, huh? I pick up a different lump, this one consisting of fruity flesh around a hard core. Tearing a chunk off in my mouth, I find that it has a similar taste to the last one.
ねえ、大丈夫？それって。
The look on Saya's face, she's like, yeah, well, here's the problem.
僕でも食べられる味だ。っていうよりうまいよ、これ。
Why am I getting the feeling within the main character? So the main character's condition is like normal food bad, but him eating like humans is good for him. And the thing is, like, he can't really tell apart because of his condition, because this is something he's already used to. Oh, man. At first, Saya looks dumbstruck, but then she bursts out laughing.
そうなんだ。ふみのりもこういうのが好きだったんだ。なんだ、あれこれ工夫して頑張ってた私がバカみたい。
さやっていつもこういうものを食べてたのか。
こんな大物は久しぶりだけどね。うん。近所の公園とかで取ってくれるやつ。
In the nearby park, there's an impressive nature preserve not too far from here. I've never heard about fruits like these growing there, but well, of course, they only look like fruits to me. They're really something else.
ごめんね。一番美味しいところはさっきさやが全部食べちゃった。
Oh, best parts?
いいよ、また今度で。でもこれで明日から一緒に食事ができるね。
Saya seems really happy. I'm happy too, of course. Eating with someone is much more fun than eating alone, and it makes the food taste better too.
まだまだいっぱいあるし、食べきれない分は冷やせば2、3日は大丈夫だよ。ちょっと味は落ちるんだけどね。
じゃあ早めに片付けておこうか。
Sealing the small fruits in Tupperware and the large ones in pots and bowls. Saya and I stored the remaining food in the refrigerator. Thinking of tomorrow's dinner fills me with anticipation. I feel that little by little, I'm starting to regain the joy of living. Saya will guide me. With her, I can live on. Oh my god. True Scary Stories, Hospital Edition. Chapter 4, The Monster in the Hospital. A medical student relates his shocking experiences. Will you believe him or not? Strange things started happening at the hospital around the end of last spring. It began with patients waking up in the middle of the night, screaming. They all spoke of terrifying nightmares, and many of them had to be sedated. Some patients even transferred to other hospitals because of it. The weird thing was that they'd all had exactly the same dream. A dream about some horribly disgusting monster staring down at them from their bedside. But the really strange stuff started happening after that. There used to be a lot of stray cats around campus looking for scraps from the students. One day the cats suddenly disappeared, and it wasn't that they stopped coming. It was more like they'd vanished from the area entirely. And then people stopped walking their dogs around. According to rumors, the dogs were refusing to go anywhere near the school. Eventually, things started going missing in the hospital. Organs, to be precise. Transplant organs kept disappearing from storage. People came close to losing their jobs over it. And it wasn't just 2 or 3 times that it happened. They tried to keep it from the students, but we heard it was a lot worse than that. People started saying that there was something living in the hospital. The janitors would find strange messes that could only have been made in the middle of the night, traces of something that had crawled down the hallway, or weird stains caused by something dripping through the ceiling. The late shift nurses talked about hearing strange noises on the same nights that patients woke screaming. There's one last story, one you can never mention inside the hospital. One day, the obstetrics department went crazy. They said that a newborn had disappeared in the night. If that were true, the police would have come and it would have been all over the news, but They say the big shots managed to make it all go away. It's just a rumor, of course. These strange incidents suddenly stopped toward the end of summer. Now there are almost no patients complaining of nightmares, and the cats have started coming back to campus. But still, what happened in the hospital that summer? Even now, just thinking about it gives me the creeps. Wow. Talking about this. Oh. I assume that's a little bit of a voice message. Well, already 40 minutes up. Up already? Nah. I'll take a little bit of a pause, so I'll be right back. Alrighty. Because of some, background noise from a few hours ago, we're back here. So last time was, it was pretty something. The Omi was trying to give, Fuminori a visit and whatnot. Oh man. What did it even say? Aside of the little, scary story, of what happened at the hospital and whatnot. Let me see here. If I go through. Ah, man. That's something. All right. Let's continue. Yeah, it's Koji and Yo, in the conversation this time. This is the third day in a row that they haven't been able to get in touch with Omi. There's no sign that she returned to her apartment, and even her family doesn't know anything. Her parents have already filed a missing persons report. Oh boy. You wouldn't know what it's going to get worse. You wouldn't know what happened, what's going on over there.
まあ、あいつのことだからな。何事もなかったみたいに、ひょっこり顔出しそうな気もするんだが。
だといいけど。
I hope so. Yo replies with a gloomy expression. She's worried about Omi, of course, but the incident with Fuminori 3 days ago must still be weighing on her as well. Yeah, that conflict was something. Like, I don't know what Omi was gonna do. I'm pretty sure Omi is gonna, was trying to come over to his house and trying to, slap him in the face or something. But no, she got unfortunately murdered off by some creature of the sort, which I assume it's Saya, but we don't even get to see Saya's monstrous form from what I recall. Yo hasn't seen Fuminori since then, and Fuminori hasn't made any effort to approach her or Koji. 4 people used to meet in this cafeteria between classes, but now there are only 2.
ねえ、殿くん、もう一度考えてみようよ。どこかオミちゃんの行きそうな場所に心当たりない？
いや、一通りは確かめたしな。
No, Koji answers evasively. I already checked everywhere. It's a lie, of course. Koji knows where Omi planned to go that evening, but he doesn't want to bring Fuminori up in front of Yo. Their awkward silence is mercifully broken by the bell signaling the start of the next period.
じゃあ、俺行くわ。
Well, well, that was a bit of a short conversation, ain't it? Unless Koji is mistaken, Yo is supposed to have class next period too, but she just sits there, staring off into space. Unable to come up with anything to say, he leaves the cafeteria reluctantly. Both Omi's disappearance and Yo's depression worry Koji. Yeah. Omi's quote-unquote disappearance and both problems lead back to the exact same place.
海のりは一体
When Omi went missing, the first thing he did was question Fuminori. After all, the last time he'd seen her was just before she stormed off to give Fuminori a piece of her mind. Fuminori responded with unequivocal denial and acted like he hadn't the slightest idea why Omi would have gone to see him. Perhaps that was only natural, as he was unaware that Omi and Koji had witnessed him reduce Yo to tears. Did Omi even make it to Fuminori's house? She had been riding a wave of emotion when she left, and might have calmed down and changed her mind halfway there. Or perhaps she ran into trouble on the way? Koji concluded, or more accurately, convinced himself, that one of these possibilities was the truth, subconsciously denying the one remaining possibility that Fuminori was lying, that he had met Omi and was involved with her disappearance. When questioned by the police, Koji told the truth about Omi's destination only up to this train station, maintaining that he had no idea where she planned to go after that. He wanted to cooperate with the search, of course, but Omi couldn't have made it to Fuminori's house. Fuminori said so himself, didn't he? In that case, he told the police everything they needed to know. Not wanting to get the still fragile Fuminori involved, he forced himself to accept this flimsy logic. But the conflict has built up inside of him without his notice, leaving unanswered suspicion to fester in his mind. Koji is deep in thought, paying no attention to his surroundings, but perhaps that is what allows him to catch sight of his friend's back through the crowd of milling students. The screen froze?
海のり
Oh. I thought that... normally I have to wait, and I was like, wait. Okay, there we go. At first, Koji assumes that he's headed to the lecture hall, but it soon appears that he is instead going home. Strange. Medical students have required courses in the afternoon. Though he is initially surprised, Koji's hesitation lasts for only a second. He follows his friend, taking care to stay far enough behind that he won't be noticed. Oh, we're at a train station. Fuminori wasn't going home, as became obvious when he boarded a train heading in the opposite direction. Koji's next guess was that he was going to see his doctor at the T University Hospital, but Fuminori rode straight through the closest station.
どこに向かってる
At first, Koji felt ashamed for tailing his friend like this, but his conscience fell silent as Fuminori's actions grew more mysterious. The stranger it gets, the closer Koji feels to discovering the truth behind Fuminori's sudden transformation. Any knowledge would be welcome, no matter how slight. Even Koji is beginning to think that there must be more behind Fuminori's change than the accident alone. He wants a more satisfying answer, one that will help him guide whether Fuminori can still be trusted. Fuminori gets off at a small station in a nondescript suburb of Tokyo. Koji follows, trying not to lose sight of him amid the other disembarking passengers. The area is quite desolate, with only a small bookstore, a convenience store, and a market in front of the train station. It is easy for Koji to keep Fuminori in view. This neighborhood was carved out of the Fuji foothills, and here and there remain steep inclines and wooded areas that escaped assimilation. Koji is amazed that such a quiet place exists less than an hour out of central Tokyo. Fuminori seems to know these streets. He moves quickly and purposefully through the suburban community, his eyes fixed straight ahead. Is it just me or the background looks similar to the one used in Higurashi? I don't know. I could be wrong though, but because the setting of the house looks different. I mean, you can tell by if I click space, right? Yeah. Maybe it's because of how it's pictured with the bunch of forest and all. Before long, Fuminori reaches a house without ringing the bell or even knocking. He opens the door and vanishes inside, leaving Koji to wonder how Fuminori can treat the house as his own. After waiting to see if Fuminori comes back out, Koji approaches the gate and checks the nameplate. Ogai, it reads. Koji has never heard of anyone by that name among Fuminori's acquaintances. Next, his attention is drawn to the thick wad of leaflets sticking out of the mail slot. This, coupled with the general dilapidated feel of the place, I hope I got that one right too, suggests that it has been abandoned for some time. Dilapidated. A small playground about 2 blocks away provides an adequate vantage point from which to watch the front of the Ogai home. Fortunately, it does not appear to be the sort of house that has a rear exit. Koji settles down on a bench to begin his stakeout. I should have brought more smokes, he said. He thought. 1 hour passes and then another, but there remains no sign of movement around the Ogai residence. Soon twilight settles upon the neighborhood. After Koji's 1 pack of cigarettes runs out, the stakeout becomes a battle against mounting impatience. He kills time by redialing Omi on his cell and sending her short text messages, but his efforts are futile, as he knew they would be. When the sky begins to turn deep blue and the street lights come on, Fuminori finally emerges from the house and heads back toward the station with the same hurried stride. After some brief consideration, Koji decides that right now, investigating the house is more important than tailing Fuminori. He rings the doorbell just to make sure. After receiving the expected silence in response, he checks to make sure no one is watching and turns the doorknob. The door is not locked. The moment he enters the house, stale air thick with mold and dust fills Koji's nostrils. It is the unmistakable smell of a house that has long lain untouched. There is also a faint hint of something else in the air, something reminiscent of damp sewers and fetid cisterns. Flipping the light switch does nothing. The power must be cut off. Koji uses his cigarette lighter to illuminate the immediate area. In the thick dust covering the floor, he sees several brand new trails of footprints that could only have been made by shoes, Fuminori's. Koji decides to follow suit and dispense with courtesy. He enters with his shoes on. I mean, the house is already abandoned. So I don't know why you want to take your shoes off. Might as well explore while at it. The lighter's flickering flame pushes back the deathly silence and gloom of the house. Koji is surprised to see evidence of life remaining. Everything from furniture to tableware and appliances. Nothing seems to be missing. The thickness of the dust suggests that the house has been empty for several months, which means that the owner must have left with little more than the clothes on his back. Could he have gone on a long vacation? I mean, several months seems like seems a little too much for a long vacation, if you ask me. I mean, I guess it depends. Like, if you're going to be like a month or a few months, I mean, that's fair. But it's like, if it's like several months and more than that, I don't know. It's debatable. The calendar in the den is still turned to April, empty and silent, yet still exhibiting signs of the life that was once lived there. The house reminds Koji of a passenger ship entombed at the bottom of the sea. In the graveyard-like quiet, a sinister thought suddenly enters his mind. No one is living here, but that does not have to mean that the owner left. Maybe he was murdered, and his rotting corpse is right under Koji's feet. He finds himself wanting a stronger light. A flashlight in his hand would make him feel much better. Koji follows Fuminori's footsteps to the second floor, where he begins to catch the scent of paper in the stale air. It is the smell of old books, instantly recognizable to anyone who has worked in an antique bookstore or library. The first room on the second floor turns out to be a study, its towering shelves packed with such a vast number of books that Koji fears for the stability of the floor. As a medical student himself, he is able to discern at a glance that this study belongs to a medical professional and a high-level one at that. Judging by the content of the books, a smorgasbord of technical volumes far beyond a simple student's understanding, the owner's interests lie more with medical research than with clinical practice. Fuminori must have spent most of his time here. The scattered dust suggests that he was searching for something, and the contents of the desk drawers are in obvious disarray. A small pile of books stacked on the side table catches his eye. Being next to the desk, they must have been the most frequently read. Their nature could shed some light on the character of the person who worked here. Koji frowns as he examines the 3 books. These aren't scientific texts like the rest, but old, leather-bound Western tomes, like the sort you would find in a rare bookstore. The titles are meaningless to him. Crate des Chiffres appears to concern semiotics, but Ars Magna et Ultima is some kind of treatise on divination. And then there's the Voynich manuscript, which looks like some sort of picture book. When he pages through it, he finds the text utterly incomprehensible. Maybe it's some kind of cipher. Whatever they are, they clearly have nothing to do with medicine. Refuting Koji's earlier guess that this guy, quote-unquote, was a doctor. Looking down, Koji suddenly notices the glint of something black and metallic underneath the chair. A pocket-sized flashlight, quite out of place among all these dusty books. Fuminori must have brought it in. Well, I think it's a bit long enough as is. I mean, it's approaching the hour mark on the recording. I mean, I took a little bit of a long ass like break, quote unquote, per se, like 40 minutes in, but yeah, so far, I think this is good enough to save it from here. Yeah, this is where I last time I saved, because I was like, well, I paused around there, so let's overwrite this save and then lock the save as is. It's interesting because I don't know what's the purpose of locking a save slot file, but I guess this is what parts would be. I guess if you have the save files like unlocked, means that it could be like deleted, like or something like that. I don't know. But yeah. So right around here is the where we stop it from here, where Koji is gonna explore the abandoned house per se. Well, I don't know if it's abandoned, but considering how long the Dr. Ogai has been has been gone for like several months, probably more than that, it might as well be an abandoned house while at it. So next parts, maybe maybe Koji can find some more about the mystery behind Dr. Guy, or Fuminori's reasoning as to why he entered the house. So, with that being said, like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys later. Have a good one.